something must have happened in 1970 that attracted the meteorites to Earth. Hi! So this video is really just all about some hard discussions about data, some of my own personal musings about data. What are your own thoughts about data and in this field? So what makes a beautiful graph? There's a lot of resources out there on how to make beautiful graphs. Kinds of graphs, types of graphs. There's color theory. There's also the CRAP principles of design. And yes, if you haven't heard of the CRAP principles of design, such a thing exists. It's nothing bad. It stands for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So general principles that you need to think about when you're creating something that's visual, especially for web design and print design. There's also the Z theory of eye tracking, where you can place the most important components of your charts, usually to top left corner, and also the use of white space, abundance of white space. There's a lot of references on how to create beautiful graphs. So what makes a bad graph? A bad graph should be the ones that are not following those visual design best practices on how to make good graphs. But there's another component here. Another component for us creating beautiful graphs is the data that goes into these charts, which is equally or more important than creating the beautiful graphs. It's just like having a fancy kitchen, clean kitchen, white marbles, the latest and greatest kitchen appliances that help you create good food. But eventually what you're going to serve is food. The quality of that food is based on first the ingredient that you put into that dish, and second is the way you take care and prepare that dish. The presentation of food is important as well, don't get me wrong, but we can't lose sight of the fact that actually we're preparing food. And in this case, we're really preparing data. If we can't take care of the data, it's just like us putting garbage into our fancy equipment and creating something that looks really beautiful, but still is garbage. Or we can have the best ingredients. We're going to get all the organic ingredients, creme de la creme, but if we don't prepare it properly, it could even be dangerous. So we need to know the parameters on how to first choose our ingredients and parameters on how to prepare the food so that it is something that we can eat. It's something that is safe and something that is useful. I teach data-related courses for a while now. I teach databases, how to create queries, how to use a database, how to work with data warehouses. I also teach data visualization with Tableau. For both of these courses, it has a core technical focus, which means students that are coming in here, they want to gain that one technical skill, how to query the database, how to create charts in Tableau. But I always try to take a step back and remind the students that the technical skill is important, but we still need to be aware of what it is that we're trying to do. What questions are we trying to answer? We have to think about our questions, and we also have to think about our data. Just because your query, your select statement runs and executes does not mean that it's correct. Just because you've created the fancy graph, the latest and greatest features in a tool, does not mean that you're actually providing meaning and value to whatever you're creating. At the core of all this is really data. And this is really where data literacy comes in. With all this data that we're collecting and analyzing right now, data literacy has been put on the spotlight. But data literacy is a very hard conversation to have, especially for people who are kind of new in this field and are just trying to figure out what this field is all about, or people who have been on the job, been tasked to work with a lot of data, even without having the background to do so. There's so many things to think about. This is where Ben's book, Avoiding Data Pitfalls, has been really helpful for me. This is a pretty easy to read. It's actually not a very thick book. It's not intimidating. It's easy to read. It's like you're reading a story or a collection of stories. And it's something that's very relatable. It's something that I recommend to my student. Even though it's not a data literacy course, I emphasize the importance of data literacy and how to avoid data pitfalls. So let's take a step back. Let's just try to understand what literacy even means. And there's a very simple definition for it. It's the ability to read and write. So you can tack on literacy to some other subject. It's the ability to read and write in that subject. So for data literacy, it is the ability to read data, to write data, to understand data, and to know the nuances of data. It is that basic skill. Ben talks about 7 data pitfalls, and it's good to see it in writing. Some of it you probably know already, some of it you're probably aware, but having a collection of these pitfalls, the use cases, the examples, the common ways we can trip over these pitfalls is actually a very helpful guide for people who are working with data. So even questions like, should I use an average? Should I use a median? Should I use a mode? To be able to answer the questions, those are important because any information that we have can influence any decisions that are going to come out of it. And I remember discussions where the question is about adding percentages. So if I get 10% off on one product and 90% off on another product, does it mean that I have 100% off? And again, these are things that we need to consider when we're working with data because it's very easy to gloss over the fact that maybe we haven't looked at the data this way, we haven't processed the data correctly, because our final product is something that's shiny and new and a beautiful graph. And ultimately, that should be secondary. Our visuals, our beautiful visuals, should be secondary to the meaning and the value that we're adding because of the data that we have analyzed, investigated, and prepared. One of the pitfalls that Ben talks about is the data reality gap. And I think it's a very important concept, especially for people who are working with data. Sometimes we have the tendency to look at the data set. Let's download the data set, looking at the data set, and think that that's the whole world, that this is all reality, this is everything that happened, when it's not. We have to always remember that the data set that you're holding right now is simply a reflection of reality. It's a representative of reality. This data set has been recorded based on certain parameters. It has been probably cleaned up, transformed, and then presented to you. It's just like having processed data. It is processed data. So when we're investigating our data, making recommendations or creating conclusions, we have to always think about what are the nuances, what are the repercussions of these conclusions based on things that I don't know about the data. One of the examples that Ben brings up is Ramon Martinez's dashboard on meteorites that fell on Earth. So if you've downloaded this dataset and thought that this is a complete picture of reality, you're going to take a look at this dashboard and think, the meteorites are afraid of water because you don't see a lot of points on water. So if you're trying to avoid meteorites, you might decide to just live close to the water or in the middle of the ocean because it doesn't seem like the meteorites are going there. Or we can also make the conclusion that before 1970, there were no meteorites. There's probably 1 or 2 instances in here where there was a meteorite before 1970. Therefore, something must have happened in 1970 that attracted the meteorites to Earth. And then now we're going to go into this wild goose chase of figuring out, well, what happened? What could have attracted these meteorites? But we have to remember that this data set, first and foremost, is a reflection of reality based on certain parameters. So the other things that should come into our investigation will be advances in recording the meteorites. What were the parameters? How are we collecting it? Are we asking people for meteorite sightings? Are there ones that are missed? Do we even have capabilities of tracking meteorites that fall on water? And maybe not, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we don't see these dots on water. Ramon Martinez correctly called out the fact that these are every recorded meteorite. And that keyword right there, recorded, is what's most important. It's letting people know that this is not every meteorite, but it's every recorded ones. And by the fact that it has been recorded already communicates that there might be shortcomings in this data. It's not going to capture every existence of meteorites. And that's something that we need to think about when we're visualizing our data, when we're collecting all of this information that comes from different data sources. So as data professionals, we have a lot of responsibilities on our shoulders. We have to do our due diligence when we're getting our data, preparing our data, and when we're presenting our data, when we're presenting our conclusions. We have to call out the shortcomings, possible nuances of the data, because we want this to be a fully transparent process as possible, and that makes for the best informed decisions. And we also have to remember that it's complicated. It's just like relationships. Data is not complete, data is not clean, it's not simple, it changes so rapidly. But I think we have to come at it with humility. We have to be humble enough to acknowledge that we won't have all the answers. We won't have all of the data points. We will never be 100% sure because there are pieces that probably are not recorded. Don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic field. I love working with data, but I learn a lot. I go through a journey where I learn, I stumble, I learn, I stumble, I learn, I stumble. And I also forget things that I've learned, so I have to relearn some of them. Not everything is rosy. But if we remember that there are things that we could trip up on, that's already being better. And there are so many data professionals out there that are selflessly giving their time, sharing their knowledge, so that more and more people appreciate data, understand data, and know how to use data. So this is a heartfelt thanks to all the data geeks out there who are geeking out on data and get really giddy and excited when working with data, because you all help make the world a better place.